Yes, hello. This lesson is in regards to Facebook Data Fool Part 3. You should have done this warm up, and now you should be at this part. I obviously have to put the link in there. So please watch this video first and then answer these questions. Okay, here we go. So, a quick review of the warm up. Um, you guys were presented with this graph. In this case, this lady named Terry, basically when she was 26, she fell on her head and went into a vegetative state. And what that means is that she was just pretty much dead, but not dead. And the way to keep her alive is they had a feeding tube. So that's where the drinks and the food would go down. So she didn't starve to death. Now, as you saw, after 10 years, her husband, who wanted to keep her alive for a long time, as soon as he got a ton of money, decided to pull the plug. But her parents fought that. So basically, eventually, after the courts and courts and courts, the case went. I mean, yes, the case went to the Congress and the courts. And from the Congress, this graph shows all what parties, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, who wanted to let Terry die. From this chart, if you just look at it without looking at this, okay, pretend we're not looking at that. In my opinion, it looks like Democrats want to let Terry die at least 3 times more than Republicans and Independents, because this is 2 bars, so then another 2 and another 2. So it looks like they want to let him die by 3 times, painting him to be this picture of like way more evil than Republicans and Independents. Now, if you actually look at the data, like the percentages, what we did, we saw that this was 62%, and then this was 54%. Well, that is like what, 8%? I mean, so that's a decent difference, but it's not 3 times. If it was 3 times, the Democrats would want her to die 150%. 150% of Democrats would want her to die, which obviously isn't the case. So the question is, why we're doing this and who might want to use this graph? Well, we have 2 big news channels in America. We have Fox News and we have CNN. And this is a big reason for this lesson. Fox News tends to favor Republicans and lean towards the right, conservatives. CNN leans towards the left, Democrats. Obviously, if your news channels have a slant, they might want to use graphics like this to paint their picture. So my guess is Fox News would use a graph like this because it makes Democrats seem a lot more sinister and evil than Republicans. Okay, so we're going to look at some more. So the question is, why are we doing this? Like we said, it's really important when you guys look at news sources and social media, if you see a graph like this, to not just take it at face value. Because if you do, you might get the wrong picture. Also, what's going on right now is our coronavirus. So, obviously, you guys have seen a lot of charts and graphs regarding coronavirus. And at the end of this series, we're going to take a look at them because a lot of them, just like the ones we just saw, are misleading. And what does it do when you have misleading graphs and charts about a pandemic? Well, it can cause mass hysteria, okay? So if you misinterpret a graph, or a graph is there kind of to paint a certain picture, it can cause a panic. And that's maybe why we had all the toilet paper being sold out within a week, because it's just this mass hysteria. So graphs and charts hold a huge power because most people look at graphics and not as much reading. So you look at a graphic and that's what you think. Okay. So last week we looked at stretching the y-axis and we looked at 2 graphs, same data, right? This is the same data. Jesus, it's really hard to do this. Okay. And these were kids at Franklin who bought certain types of marbles. So there were blue, red, and yellow. The first graph uses a scale that goes up to 200. And what does it do? It makes it seem like the sales difference were not that much. I mean, obviously red was bigger than yellow, but it seems like everything was pretty close together. So who might want to use a graph like this? I would say people who sell blue or yellow marbles, because people look at this and say, marble sales were just about the same. That's fine. Now, if we take the same data, right, and we put it in a graph stretching the y-axis, right? So instead of making it go up to 200, it just goes up to 20. You can see that red marbles outsold blue marbles by, a decent amount, and they definitely outsold yellow marbles. So I would say this is a bad graph because it's too condensed. It's zoomed out too much. And this is a good graph. And obviously, if a yellow marble salesman uses this graph, it's not going to look good for him. So he's going to want to use this graph. So this is bad. Stretching the y-axis, okay? These are questions number 14 and 15. This is stretching the y-axis when you scale the y-axis at a lot bigger scale than it should be. Okay, now what we're learning about today is called omitting the baseline. This is also a bad graph. This is the one we just covered where the y-axis starts at 50. You're not stretching it out, but you're just starting it not at 0. Okay? And what did that do? It made it seem like Democrats were a lot more heartless than Republicans or independents, even though the only difference here was 8 percentage points. So omitting the baseline is when you don't start the y-axis at 0. Now, if you start the y-axis at 0 for this same graph, these are the same graph, okay? Same data, just like the other graph. Bear with me here. Okay, 62%, 54%, 54%. Obviously, the Democrats were maybe a little bit more heartless than Republicans or independents, but not by that much. Okay, so see how the y-axis here starts at 0 and the y-axis here starts at 50? So when you omit the baseline, you're not starting the y-axis at 0, okay? And you see what it does. Just like here, it can either, this really stretches out the data, and this one shrinks the data. So these are some examples from Fox News. I'm sure I can find some from CNN as well, and maybe I'll start looking for them. So this is number 16 on your questions. So, if you had a job, you get a paycheck, and it looks something like this. It'll say salary or gross pay, $500. But do you see $500? No. You'll see maybe $375 in this case, because what happens? You have $68 in federal tax, Social Security is another $31, and so all these are taxes. You have state tax. So you're losing about $125 in taxes. If you have less money, are you likely to spend less money? Yes. The more money people have, the more they'll spend, and I'm sure you guys know that. So what President Bush did, who's a Republican, Fox News Republican, he cut taxes. So he cut the tax rate. So instead of maybe having $68 held out of your paycheck, you might have $40 because your tax rate is lower. Okay? Thus you have more money, thus you spend more. So right now, right, with the tax cuts, the top tax rate, the richer you are, the more you get taxed. So people that make over $200,000 are getting taxed a lot, maybe at 35%. I get taxed at maybe 18%. You guys, if you're just working, part-time jobs, you might get taxed at 12%. So they said this is the top tax rate right now. So with the cuts, it's 35%. If the cuts expire, it goes up to 39.6%. Okay? So right now with the tax cuts are good. People like tax cuts. It's 35%. Why do they like tax cuts? Does they get more money? Now it goes up to 39.6%. If you do 39.6 minus 35, what's the difference? 4.6%. Oops, sorry. That's not that much. But this graph makes it seem like what? It's honestly, it seems like the tax rate has quadrupled from 35 to 39.6. Once again, why is that? Because the scale starts at 34, okay? If you start the scale at 0, it'll look a lot different. But obviously, Fox News wants to show that if Bush's tax rates expire, which Bush didn't want to do, the tax rate would skyrocket. And now, real quick, I have two more things. Same thing, Fox News, 17 and 18. Unemployment rate. In America, you want a low unemployment rate. That means more people have jobs and less people don't. Okay, so this is under Obama. And there's two problems with this graph. Let's just look here. Like as we said, it's an omitted baseline. So it starts at 8% and only goes to 10%. And what they want to show is that the tax rate went down a little bit and then went up past what it was in the beginning, because this is when he took office. And then it started kind of staying steady. Now there's two really bad things about this graph. The biggest thing is this is 8.6%. 8.6 should be right here. They just plain old lied. Okay? So really, if you look at that, that's an error we'll look at later. Just lying. So if you look here, right, it actually went up a little bit and then went down significantly. But here, this is 9.2% and this is 8.6%. So what you guys are going to do is you're actually going to graph this, but instead of having a baseline at 8, you're going to make a graph with a baseline at 0% and see how much did you think the unemployment really changed during 2011 under Obama. So I'm going to give you a quick little tutorial, okay? So you watch my lesson, you answer these questions. Now what you're going to do is right here, you're going to click on this spreadsheet link, okay? So you click on that link, and you should get something like that. That's the graph we just saw. And what you're going to do actually is you're going to enter in this unemployment data that you see on this chart. So in January it's at 9%. At February it's at 8.9%. And at March 8.8 and April 9. Okay, so I get those data from right there. I'm not going to finish the whole thing for you, because once you finish it, you'll have the whole bar graph. Now, what you can do is you can screenshot it, take a picture on your phone and upload it. And I put a little lesson on how to do that under materials, okay? A little Google Doc as well that hopefully will help. Or I just found a new way. You can actually click on this, like I'm doing here. Go to Edit. Go to Copy. It's probably a lot easier. Go back to your Google Doc. Click here. Go to Edit. Go to Paste. And then write Paste Unlinked. And there's your screenshot. Okay? Just in case you can't get that screenshot to work, I actually posted a picture right here, so you can just click this and click the picture. So then you can answer the rest of the questions. Okay? Well, that's right below my 15-minute limit. Please, if you have any questions, email, call, FaceTime, Google Meet. I'm here to help you. Okay, signing off. Bye.